Hello, this is Evan Rogerson, 9 Motor Gang here, and today I'm going to go ahead and break down a strategy. I'm going to call it long tube camping. That is, assuming you win auto, basically means that you win the game. I think for this game, winning auto is just as important as it was in games like Tipping Point, as the autonomous bonus can allow you to pretty much complete control of the field, as you'll see in some of these different field scoring states. So basically, all you need is to win auto and then have a robot that has a ball capacity of around 15 balls, which I think is completely doable. Our early season robot, which I'll just kind of like put up a picture of right here, that guy could hold around 9 balls, and it was built to be a VexU 15-inch robot. So I think for VRC later in the season, especially, you can totally get 15 balls. Like that's a completely reasonable amount. And obviously, you can't guarantee that you win auto, but if you do win auto, you can pretty much, as long as you don't do anything stupid, guarantee that you win the rest of the match. So basically, all you need to do is camp at the long goals. So if you win auto, load your robot up with about 15 balls and go and just sit down at the end of one tube each. So you have one of your robots on one end of the tube and the other robot on the other end of a different tube. And you just unload 10 of your balls so you get the middle control zone. Your balls would be going around there, and your partner's balls will be going around there. And then no matter what your opponent does ball wise, like they can put, because the way that the goals work is it's about 5 open right there, about 5 enclosed, and about 5 open. So you only want to put 10 balls in because if you push more balls out there now, those are exposed and your opponents could descore them and put their own balls in. And if you keep doing that, eventually you are going to run out of ball capacity. So it's really important that you only really want to push about 10 balls, as that locks in the middle control, as if you start pushing out 11, they could descore one of your balls. So you just put out 10 balls, let them have the other 5, let them have the entire middle goals, and you win by about 4 points here, you can see. Which is where the Autom bonus does swing. You don't win this if you don't have the Autom bonus. Now, you're probably thinking, well, why don't they just go and park? Because they're not scoring any points there. And yeah, they totally can go and park. However, if they go to park, that means that now you can start pushing your other balls out, and they would have some blue balls there, and your red balls right there. You unload, like I said, you want to hold around 15, that way you can fill up the entire tube. You push one more of your ball out and push one of their balls off the end. So that just gives you like a 6-point swing, and even if they go and park, and the amount of time it takes for them to park, you should be definitely able to push a singular ball out. I don't think that's too much to ask. If you can't do that, probably don't deserve to win anyways. But considering you managed to win auto, that should be a completely reasonable task. Just push a singular ball out, and you still win. Now, what about double park? Double parking is even worse, probably, because a single park, I think you could totally pull off in like 2 seconds, probably even less at the end of the game. And then again, pushing a ball out, though, I think is maybe like half a second, probably even less. But now double park is definitely going to take a lot longer, as unless both robots are really tiny, you're not just going to be able to both park independently. There's going to be some level of collaboration there. So I think 2 or 3 seconds at least. And that means that you're leaving both ends of the tubes undefended. So this is enough that one robot can just push out 5 balls, which again, if you go with about half a second metric, that's only going to take them about 2.5 seconds. So you could solo just push out 5 of their balls, push in 5 of your balls, and win. Or each side just does, like, maybe this person does 2 and the other person does 3, because both of these tube ends are now undefended. And I mean, ideally, both of you would just push out all 5, but you don't even need to. So that's maybe like 1.5 seconds. That's maybe like 1 second worth of work. And the other team, it's highly unlikely they'll be able to double park that quickly. So again, double park, not really worth it. There's not really anything they can do in this scenario really to beat you. If they cede you control of both of the long goals, there's nothing they can really do to win unless you make a mistake and you aren't able to like push their balls out. But even then, they're going to double park, they leave it completely undefended, or they don't go and double park and you just win. And now you're probably thinking, okay, well that requires the other team to get control of both long goals. You're stupid if you let them do that. So what happens if the other team gets control of the long goals? So in this scenario, red still wins Auton, you're red, and blue, we'll assume they have great robots, they can do the capacity thing just like you can. And they do exactly what you did to them, and you can see right here. However, this is a 4-point swing with Auton, but they don't have the Auton bonus. So even if they get control of both of the long tubes, you just do the exact opposite thing. You fill up the middle goals, and then you go and load up with a lot of balls, and then you just go and sit down at the end of the long tube. And now you're in the reverse scenario, and now you have an entire 16-point swing, which gives you a nice bit of buffer. Even if they just go and park and you don't do anything, you still win the game. Like, there's not a whole lot that you have to do. And what about double park again? That just sucks even more. Because now really all you have to do is push out about 3 balls. And that's just one person pushing out 3 balls. The other person could also push out like more balls. And again, I think this would maybe take you like 1.5 seconds to do. And that's a massive swing because they lose their middle control bonus. When they have 10 balls in there, they're going to have 5 balls in the middle. Which is really only like the middle 3 of those count. But if you can push that out, then you'll have 2 balls in the middle and they only have 1 ball most likely, and you just win. And your partner can probably do some stuff too, and even here you can see you're winning by a ton of points. So the double park is not the play. Now, the other thing is this assumes that you can de-score really easily from the mobile goals because, I mean, not the mobile goals, the middle goals, because like, here's the video right there. It's really easy to just like ram into it and knock a bunch of balls out. So that's definitely going to be better for the Blue Alliance to do here than parking. You'll notice this is a common theme that pops up is whenever you go to park, you secede a major position and you lose way more than the 7 points that you actually get from parking, especially with double park being a lot worse. I don't see teams really even being able to double park because why would you build your robot around it when every single scenario sucks? Whereas at least for single parking, it can be useful for maybe like skills. And you know, if your intake breaks, you know, you can still at least single park or something. But even then, I think you're probably better sitting at the end of a tube. So now de-scoring. What if they leave the goal last second and go and de-score? Now this I think is probably one of the better bets. But even then, you'll notice Red Alliance still has a massive lead. All they have to do is push at least 3 balls out, get that middle control bonus, and then they win. And if Blue Alliance messes up their D-score, Red will still have 1 ball in there in the majority, and they'll win by a lot of points. Like, even if they D-scored that, Red's still going to be winning here. I guess I forgot to put that picture in. But, okay, so what if the Blue Alliance, they D-score both goals really quickly, and they put in one of their own balls? This is a better strategy, I think, because now the Red Alliance has to go from, they were at this position before, Blue Alliance leaves from this goal and goes to D-score. And Red has to now push out about 7 balls, which is probably going to take them around 3-4 seconds, somewhere in there. But even then, that's asking a lot of Blue to go ahead and do. They have to D-score 7 balls, D-score 7 balls, score 1 ball, score 1 ball. And I still think that it's easier to push out 7 balls than it is to just do all of that for the Blue Alliance. So I still think this scenario is going to heavily favor the Red Alliance here. And even if they go ahead and park, all Red has to do is put out an extra 2 balls, which 1 second to park and 1 second to push out 2 balls I think is around equal. But again, I still think that initially this favors Red. So I don't think there's a whole lot that Blue can do here. I think this is kind of moving on to their best bet, I think, is fight for the middle. If you lose auto, you basically want to camp at 1 goal and let the other team have the goal. And then just like fight and kerfuffle over the middle. Because if you manage to get like a majority and they don't, this is kind of like an evenly split thing, you're going to lose because they have a 10-point lead. And even then the bonuses are like that's an 8-point for a majority and that's a 6-point. Although if you have a majority, that means that you have 1 extra ball in there, so that's really 11 points. So really you need to try and get control of this top goal and basically just 1v1. But assuming that the Red Alliance won auto and they're still competent, they're probably going to beat you. This would probably work maybe if like maybe you're on the Blue Alliance here, maybe your alliance partner really sucks, you can still have them just sit at a goal, and then you go out and maybe you try and control these middle goals, and maybe if you're up against 2 mid opponents on the Red Alliance, then maybe you could manage to get like, maybe push out that entire goal, and then you would still manage to win by 1 point. So I think this is the best bet, but overall, I do still think that if you manage to, well, especially if you get control of both long goals, there's pretty much nothing the other team can do, assuming you win auto. And then even if you lose control of both long goals, as long as you win auto and have high capacity, I think you're still in a great position in order to almost all the time win the match. A robot that has really high capacity and the ability to win auto consistently. So I think it's going to come down to a fight for Auton, like we've seen in games like Tipping Point, and that's why I think Auton's going to be super important. Thanks for sticking around to the end. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe in order to please the YouTube algorithm, and I will see you in the next one.